Days turned into weeks, and Kamala's unease grew. Though Adenu continued to help around the house, his presence began to feel heavy. Tumi, once bubbly and talkative, had grown quiet. Kamala noticed the subtle ways her daughter clung to her whenever Adenu was near, the reluctance in her tiny steps when he called her name. One afternoon, Kamala caught Tumi staring blankly at her food. "Are you feeling unwell, my love?" she asked, crouching by her daughter's side. Tumi shook her head but remained silent. Kamala's heart sank. Something was wrong, but she couldn't yet put a name to it. Determined to cheer Tumi up, Kamala decided to take her to the bustling village market. The colorful stalls, lively music, and the smell of roasted yams filled the air, lifting Tumi's spirits slightly. At the market, Kamala overheard women discussing a story about a child who had been harmed by a trusted family member. The words sent a chill down her spine. She glanced at Tumi, who was playing with a trinket she'd just been gifted. Could such betrayal happen in her own home? Kamala dismissed the thought, unwilling to believe it. Kweku returned home earlier than expected, bringing gifts and stories from his travels. Tumi ran into his arms, her laughter returning momentarily. Kamala felt a wave of relief, hoping her husband's presence would restore the peace they once had. Over dinner, Kamala shared her concerns about Tumi's recent behavior. Kweku listened intently but dismissed her worries. "Children go through phases," he said reassuringly. "She's just growing up." Kamala wanted to believe him, but her instincts told her otherwise. That night, Kamala had the same dream. This time, it was more vivid. Tumi's cries were louder, her little hands outstretched, as though begging for help. Kamala woke up drenched in sweat. She glanced at Tumi, who was fast asleep beside her, and whispered a silent prayer for clarity. The following morning, Kamala decided to keep a closer watch on her daughter and Adenu. If her instincts were warning her of something, she couldn't afford to ignore them any longer. Tumi developed a sudden fever that left her weak and lethargic. Kamala stayed by her side, tending to her with herbal remedies and soothing songs. Adenu offered to help, but Kamala politely declined, insisting on handling it herself. As the fever persisted, Kamala decided to take Tumi to the village healer. The healer examined Tumi carefully and asked a few probing questions about her behavior and interactions at home. Kamala hesitated, torn between her suspicions and her loyalty to Adenu. The healer's words lingered in Kamala's mind long after she left. "Children often show us what they can't say," the healer had said. "Watch her closely. Her silence may speak louder than her words." Kamala began to notice small but significant details, the way Tumi recoiled when Adenu entered the room or how her laughter ceased when he spoke to her. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to fall into place, but Kamala still couldn't bring herself to confront the truth. One afternoon, while cleaning the house, Kamala found a small doll tucked away in Adenu's sleeping mat. It was one of Tumi's favorite toys, but she hadn't seen it in weeks. The discovery unsettled her, raising questions she wasn't ready to face. Kamala confronted Adenu casually, asking if he had seen Tumi's doll. His response was evasive, he smiled too forced. Kamala's suspicion deepened. She decided to keep the doll as a reminder of her growing doubts. Kamala's love for Tumi outweighed her fear of the truth. She resolved to uncover what was troubling her daughter, no matter the cost. That night, as she put Tumi to bed, she gently asked, "Tumi, is there something you want to tell me? Something that's making you sad?" Tumi stared at her mother with wide eyes, then buried her face in her chest. Kamala held her tightly, whispering reassurances. "You can tell me anything, my love. I will always protect you." Tumi remained silent, but Kamala's determination grew stronger. Kamala began to observe Adenu more closely. She noticed how he seemed to avoid her gaze and how his presence made Tumi uneasy. She started planning her outing strategically, pretending to leave the house while secretly watching from the shadows. Her vigilance paid off. One afternoon, as she pretended to be out running errands, she returned quietly to the house. What she saw through the slightly ajar door stopped her heart. Adenu was sitting too close to Tumi, whispering something Kamala couldn't hear. Tumi's body language spoke volumes. She was uncomfortable, shrinking away from him. Kamala stormed into the room, startling Adenu and causing Tumi to run to her arms. Adenu stammered, trying to explain, but Kamala silenced him with a glare. "Leave my house," she said firmly, her voice trembling with controlled anger. Adenu hesitated, but Kamala's determination was unwavering. He gathered his belongings and left, though not without throwing her a spiteful look. As he disappeared into the distance, Kamala hugged Tumi tightly, vowing to protect her daughter at all costs. Yet, Kamala knew this wasn't the end. The wounds inflicted were deeper than she could see, and the path to healing would be long. But she was ready to fight for her daughter's safety and reclaim the peace that had been stolen from their home.